horrific and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised.
Billions of people just living out their lives, oblivious. Choice is an illusion created between those with power and those without.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up.
Thank you, John Larson. I receive your kind words on behalf of all of our courageous members of the House of Representatives who want the best for the American people. And what we can do that is best for them in the next 24 hours is to pass affordable, accessible health care for all Americans. The best for all Americans is to have 32 million more people to have health insurance in our country. The best for...
Piece of stinking filth.
Shh, say it again, Shal. This is AJ of the InfoWars. Listen to the Shaliak. This is Alex Jones of InfoWars. Listen to Shaliak on the Cold Reality News and Report.
This is the coolest thing I have ever seen.
Well, hello there!
this week on Cold Reality Radio. Manafort asked to turn himself in to the authorities earlier this week. New York terror attack. Another invited terror person through these governmental programs of multiculturalism. We'll talk about that today. Thanks, Chuck Schumer. If in fact this guy was really the lone gunman, if you will. The lone gunman. Or another staged event. One of many, possibly. Tech giants questioned on the Hill. Turns out that there was very, very little, if any, possible evidence that Russia interfered with the United States of Nightmerica's presidential race. Politicians whine and lie about Russia and then shame Facebook, Twitter, and other social media guest speakers for not doing more to stop the Russians that didn't really do anything at all. Ex-Catalan leaders have turned themselves in to Belgian police to be questioned by them, hopefully, I guess, protected if this was a true revolution. Sounds like things that have been fomenting for years in that region. Kind of like slavery here, but I guess they didn't have black people to, use their political identity politics on over there. So they get turned in because how dare you want to be free? How dare you want to break away from the European Union conspiracy of these bankers to control and dominate society under, we're all going to be so rich. We're all going to be so rich. Just let us create this European Union. Just let us do it.
You have attacked me and lied.
You have attacked me and lied. Welcome to Cold Reality Radio here on the UCY.TV Broadcasting Network on, again, the UCY.TV platform. We're going to get some things rolling here today. Gonna see what's happening simultaneously in the same arena of civil unrest, whether it be Spain and Catalonia not agreeing to be economic bed partners anymore. And of course, pretty much the same types of things that are going on in many different countries to foment and bring up old wounds, to reopen old wounds, to create revolution, to create a worldwide. I mean, if you can imagine it getting worse than it already is, which most Americans have no clue what's going on in other areas of the world. All you have to do is pay attention a little bit, just a little bit, to find out that, this shit show is a blueprint that's been used over and over and over again. America is the giant that they want to fall. Austerity will be coming our way at some point, and we need to be aware of that. We need to be ready for that. I would imagine that's something that most people would want to, get their, get their piece of the pie. All right, so what do we got here, man? I am not seeing the levels that I need here. I guess that's tune it up. I guess that's a little bit better there. Get a little bit of the soundboard there. Let's see what we got. Sound halls and things, and maybe a little bit of flange and a little bit of something here. See, those aren't even going in. Maybe they're okay. There you go. You guys can play God. Why have you turned my creation into an absolute mess, Hillary? And your husband, and Kevin Spacey, and Harvey Weinstein, and now pretty much everybody. So this is God. I don't know when I'm going to pull the plug on this experiment. This experiment here, but I'm coming damn close to giving up on all of you, except for the Shali Lama. I like that guy. I like him. He's a good guy. He's trying to. What do I sound like, Bill Clinton? Well, if you're trying to bullshit people, you gotta sound like a bullshitter, right? This is Bill. How you doing? I did not get involved with Monica Lewinsky. I did not do it. How dare you accuse me of these things? Let me get back to doing my job for the American people. That was one of the most ridiculous things I think I've ever heard him say, is that when his back is against the wall, he wants to get back to his job working for the American people, snorting coke like a Hoover vacuum cleaner with his brother in the governor's mansion, Rockefeller, Mr. Bill Rockefeller Clinton, bastard child of one of the bastard actually, they probably weren't bastards. The Rockefellers weren't bastards, but they made their way around, and Bill Clinton's mama was easy. And then next thing you know, there's Bill. Mama, what's going on? I'm going to be the president. Somebody told me. I went to Bilderberg in 92. I went to Bilderberg, met with all the billionaires, and they were like, hey, Bill, we like what you're doing in Arkansas. We like what's going on over there in the Arkansas. So we keep up the good work, letting the CIA ship cocaine and all kinds of other drugs, through the airport there in Mena, Arkansas, now named after the Clintons, okay? So just, keep on doing a good job there, Bill. Why do I sound like you, Bill? Because I'm a bullshitter, and I'm trying to sound like I'm trying to be the best bullshitter I can be. The best bullshitter I can be. So, yeah, there's Hillary. She's flying off to hang out with the witch covens, wherever the fuck she goes, with her lesbian. I mean, what? Did I say lesbian? No, she's my wife. So I just go around, blatantly, I just can't control myself. See, I just press sometimes I press my little buddy up against some, lady in a closet somewhere. And, she's like a head of one of the lead ups there to the head of that their television station there. But I don't care, because I'm all like, hey, baby, I'm the governor. I'm the governor, and I'll just press up against anything I want, you see, because I'm going to be president one day. I was told that I was going to be the president. And I love you, David Rockefeller. I love you in a weird way. Not even like just I love you as a person. I love you in a weird way, David Rockefeller. Not like I love the ladies, but kind of like in a weird, like off-center way. I love you, David Rockefeller. And now that you're gone, I just don't even know what to do. I sit there and I look at Hillary, and she's all like, what happened? there. And I'm like, you know, let's just keep on spreading this whole Russia bullshit, man. And sooner or later, it's going to catch on. They're gonna impeach Trump, and then they're going to put Hillary in the White House. Yeah, that's what it's going to be, man. You know, Trump's already flip-flopping on climate change. They just released a big old update the other day saying that they basically believe in climate change now. So we're going to have like 3 gallons of water for drinking, bathing, and a few other things. But I guess 3 gallons of water is a day, you know. I mean, that's, you know, the austerity. Well, you know, we're moving towards a Hunger Games type situation here, man. We're gonna be in there in those Hunger Games there. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna kill all the little children for fun on television. You know, hopefully it's one of those hot ones that wins, like that Katniss in the movie. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that'd be nice. I could visit the city there and be like, hey, I seen you win the Hunger Games. I like the way you cut their throats there. You're out of your mind, friggin' crazy killer. I like that. You're like Hillary. Only she likes the ladies. I like the ladies too. Well, oh damn. All right, so insanity. Just, I'm bringing you a little bit of mine. I never said that I was sane here. It's just, I don't know. I mean, you know, there's certain things you have the ability to open your mind and make you, you know, I'm sitting there driving yesterday. You know, I'm doing my best George W. Bush because I was born in New England, but now I'm the only one in my family that speaks like with that Texan thing, you know, I found God, and then I'm a wartime president. And, so I'm thinking about all these different ways that, you know, I can make people laugh and nothing makes, you know, I guess recently, as of within the last 48 hours, just the ability to think of ways to make people laugh using these puppets, using these economic pawns. I mean, we're like the dirty commoner pawn, but the Clintons, they're their own type of pawn. You know, they're all polished and shit. For the commoner pawns to look at and be like, hey, I like you. I like what you're saying. I like the way you talk, you know, like Sling Blade. I like the way you talk, boy. I like the way you talk there, Mr. Fresh Out the Asylum. So if you haven't seen that movie, you should probably watch it, Sling Blade. But don't watch any movies with Kevin Spacey in it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But I mean, we heard things. Did we not hear things about Spacey being on the Lolita Express there with Jeffrey Epstein? How come we haven't heard the Epstein name? Or Epstein, whatever. Not from Welcome Back, Kotter, Epstein, but Jeffrey. That would be interesting if it was Jeffrey Epstein. It was like a mixture of Epstein and Epstein. But so Spacey is done. He's just done. Wow, that fast. Boom. And then he used his exiting of the closetto to kind of put to shine a turd a little bit. I'm going to just shine a turd when my gayness is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to shine that turd up, and then I'm going to put it out there. And nobody was buying it. Nobody was biting on it. And so this guy who's been in all these movies over the years, you know, Usual Suspects, was he Kaiser Sosa, you know? He was the guy that stuttered and blah, blah, blah. See, those were the best parts for him. You would imagine. he played like he was all like, and then he turned out to be Sosa at the end. Sorry, spoiler. That's what apparently I do that. And I apologize to the nth degree on that one. But Spacey's done. He's done. Publicist gone. Web page for young. I mean, he even had a web page for young, actors. That's shut down or done with, over and done with. Is this? This pedophile thing is real, folks. It's a real thing. It's a real thing. Wealthy, powerful people do whatever they want. They do whatever they want, including just morphed into. So I married an axe murderer, Mike Myers. Including dejecting. But it's just weird. I mean, this is a big, huge thing that it's huge. But we heard months ago, 3, 4, 5 months into the Trump presidency from Alex Jones saying that they found kids in cages and this guy on TV is going to expose the whole thing. He's going to get in there and be like, I'm a big television star and I found kids in cages and they was being mistreated. They've been mistreated. What happened to all the exposure? Like what? You hear people, Robert David Steele saying very soon the Democrats are going to be in big trouble with this whole pedophile thing. Maybe. Will it happen? This is an absolute blueprint. There's no doubt about it in my mind, from the blaming Russia for shit. Even Russia today, which is gone from the Xfinity or the cable lineup, completely gone, because as I said last week, the guy in Philadelphia from WYBE.com took $130 million from, not even take it, they gave it to him. They said, hey, how about you just stop airing Russian television? No, I really like my channel. I really like what's going on here. I have my latte every day and it's a good life, man. I sit here all day and I watch all kinds of news from all over the world and junk. How about if we give you $130 million? I can buy a lot of lattes with that. And so he just gave up on it. He gave up on this platform of the news around the world. I mean, you've got BRICS, the BRICS agreement that's going on, that Peter Lavelle from Crosstalk from RT America went to Asia, to China, and they had this big gathering meeting of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, and they all got together and they're like, we're going to start our new currency. We're going to start this new thing. So is this real? Is this being orchestrated? Because currency wars are a real thing. Okay, currency wars are a real thing, and the dollar, the American economy is not doing good. I mean, they say that it's doing good, but there's no way that this can this can move on and go forward the way it is. These numbers are artificially, or you could just say the economy was suppressed with Obama. So you had 8 years of a suppressed economy with him, that joker. That fucking joker, Obama, the Irish guy, right? And so now with Trump, as soon as he comes into the mix, you get a situation where the economy just is rolling. It's just moving. It's moving right along. But that's just, if you listen to a lot of these, alternative economists, you will find that this is just charade. It's a charade, and it's exactly what you would think would happen around this time. And all the years here building up to, listening to Alex Jones, listening to his New World Order, blah, 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 the world government, which is pretty much already in place. See, that's the deception where he'll say, we got to stop world government. We got to stop it. It's coming. And then it's like, oh, for all intent and purpose, it's already here. It's already here. Okay? World government's been here for years. They created a world government a long time ago, and then they slowly infringe and step forward. The totalitarian tiptoe. The austerity in Greece. From when, if you were an American that heard anything about the Greek economic crisis, where they implemented, austerity. And I even met people in the workplace that came to America. A Greek guy came to America because there was nothing there. There was no jobs there. I believe his name was George. Nice fella. Nice Greek fella who came to America because there was no jobs, because they were the bankers were destroying the economy over there. They were creating austerity to what Noam Chomsky, he's good for some things, but he's not good for, really putting out there who, it's very vague, like who's doing this, the governments, he'll focus on the governments. I would imagine. I'm sure he's uttered banker at different times, but he always just says enough to really kind of grab people, to really kind of get them to be like, I was listening to Noam Chomsky the other day, and he was like, and I was like, wow, I really like what you just said. Right? So isn't that how it works? But you get these people, they're professors or something, so they're prestigious so that you hear them say something. And, of course, they were trained in the same educational system, so they get out there and they've been living this fiction, which benefits the bankers. It's really just the same thing. Like when you have a movie and you want to fund that movie, you go to a bank, right? All you have to do is look at the credits, and you'll see the banks, and you'll see the banks that were involved in creating that movie. Okay? And there's a lot of them. All right? So basically what the bankers are doing, which are basically just the control system run and designed and run by these bloodline families, the royal family over in England, a lot of the other royals, we're commoners though, so we'll never be royal, but we're royal jackasses. That's the thing, because we put up with this shit. And I'm not saying this because I want somebody to go out there and club somebody over the head, a banker over the head, okay? But see, that's what the system does. The system will take people, they will radicalize them with views. The universities are that radicalization 101, okay? So they get people to believe and tell them things that are really happening, but not saying who's really doing it. That's the Jones business plan. The Chomsky doesn't really need a business plan as much as he just uses his label, his labels, his prestige of his title, of his flattering title, to get people to buy into it. And then you have all these people all around, and then after a while, them saying things like, you got Cornel West. Cornel West, right, was right there on Bill Maher all the time. Had his liberal approach. I think he's a good man. I think that he's probably a little skewed by the system. You have to be a little bit skewed to be able to get through and get to get and take all these tests and whatever that deem you to be, or him or anyone who goes through the educational system to deem them to be some kind of fucking expert at the process here. But Cornel West called Obama the black mascot for Wall Street. So basically what he was saying is Obama turned his back on the black people because he's a white man with brown paint on him. And so what they do is kind of put that out. Okay. So, we know Obama's mother was white. His bloodline genealogy goes back to the first president of the United States, or the first king of the United States, as that's how a lot of people speak about him. That's Jones, George Washington, and then all these founding fathers. One side's like, oh, I love the founding fathers. George Washington was blah blah blah. Well, he was first cousin with the bloodlines over there. Some of the most important lines that were taxing the fuck out of people here. Okay, so 1776 supposedly started because of high taxing, and the Civil War with good old Abraham, the Abrahamster, who was a white supremacist or a white nationalist himself, didn't really. He was just like, I don't want black people here so much because this is not whatever. So he had his views. I don't really agree with that greatly. But the bottom line here is that Abraham Lincoln the story of Abraham Lincoln is just fucking bullshit. And you can just imagine, if there is a monument to this guy, he was a sack of shit. Okay, a sack of shit lawyer who used black people as they're used today as minorities and gays and lesbians and transgenders are being used today for identity politics. Okay, because they couldn't get their message across, which is nothing. Their message is, we're fucking you. We are a parasite. You are the host. The bankers are a parasite, and you are the fucking host. It happens no other way. Max Kaiser was just saying it on his latest podcast or his video on RT America, that they are parasites. So we're really focused on the wrong thing. If you say that you hate Trump, okay, because he's linked to the bank, he's doing whatever he needs to do for the bankers, for the Saudis, for whatever, this whole network that has been designed to grab up everything and make you look like you've got something while they have everything. And if they don't have everything, they soon are going to have it. So if you hate Trump, okay, I get that. It's legitimate. He's kind of just a symptom of the greater disease, a really bad symptom of the greater disease. But then so was Obama, because he was even more deceptive. He brought this hope and change, and then he got Cornel West to say openly that he was the black mascot for Wall Street. Because Wall Street's all that fucking matters. Okay? That's it. Not you. And one thing that Noam Chomsky said in one of these documentaries on RT America called Pigs, and it was about the Greek crisis, he said austerity is there to slowly dismantle the welfare state. If you just take money away really quickly, people that depend on that money, they're going to go fucking ape shit. Okay? And I think that's going to happen here in America. It's not going to be really austerity. It's just going to be like, boom, gone. Europe, they just want to kind of drag it out and drag it out and drag it out. Because the people that created, no doubt, the people that created the European Union were the same people that decimated Russia, the same people that decimated Germany, the same people, and they just used their pawns and they used their script to create the enemies, whether they were real enemies or fake enemies. They destroyed the Russian people, the creation of the Soviet Union. Russia, I do not really believe in the early 1900s was moving in that direction. I think they were moving in a direction of, why would anybody want? I mean, once you got to a point where you're like, I have so much, I'm a leader for whatever reason the Tsar and his family, they were all murdered by the Red Terror, which was the Trotskys and the Lenins and the system minions that have been put in place. Okay, that needs to be understood more than anything else, that these people that are these revolutionaries, the Che Guevaras, and even what's his face down in Cuba who died last year, okay, and his brother's still in charge, okay, they're in there for a reason. They are in that space for a reason. He, what's his name? The Cuban leader who just died. I can't think of it. But anyway, so he replaced some guy who was doing very important economic growth measure things for Cuba. They were moving in a direction. The CIA went in. That was another regime change. There's already documentaries on Amazon and a lot of these other different platforms, Netflix, that show that Iran in 1952 was a Mohammad Mossadegh when he was removed and replaced by the Shah. The Shah was the puppet, just like anyone else. So whoever you would put into Egypt after Mubarak was removed, these are all puppets. These are all puppets. They don't Hillary, Bill, the Bush family, they're powerful puppets, but they are in a specific pecking order. And what they're doing is they're pecking away at the 99%. They're pecking away. The 0.01% are who we should be looking at. That includes the bankers, some people that you don't hear about or see. But the Jamie Dimons, they are very important. They are, in the 1%, but they're not in the 0.01% because you know their names, you see them. And he is a parasite. He is a criminal. Max Kaiser points that out many times with many pieces of evidence that show that Jamie Dimon, Bank of America, is just a bag of shit. He is an absolute bag of shit that should really truly be used. He should be imprisoned, and then the people should vote. Okay, the people should vote on whether he fries. And we are literally at that point in time now where we need to start pointing out these people and putting them in jail. The problem is in America is that when you have your Department of Justice, they are the Department of Injustice. That's what they specialize in. Okay, whether it's Eric Holder or fucking old guy McGee from Arkansas, whatever. What's his name? I can't even think of his name. Little white-haired guy, little old guy, Jeff Sessions, who is doubling down on the war on drugs. I mean, it's like, leave people the fuck alone. Okay, leave people the fuck alone. But the war on drugs makes people so much money. Okay, Jeff Sessions is told what to do. He doesn't have his own agenda. Trump does not have his own agenda. It might look like he does. But this was really kind of like the worst cabinet shuffle that I've ever seen. When Obama got in there, they say Obama chose his cabinet today. Bullshit, he did. They were assigned to him. And then when Kagan and some of these other Supreme Court justices came in, they made it look like this is his pick for the Supreme Court. How do you pray to that court? And of course, that's how Obamacare got in there because the closeted last determining vote, what's his name, with the 1960s haircut, and so he says, okay, it's a tax and junk, so then bloody blobby blue, blibby blibby blah. And so as we move through the different scenarios here, what is happening over in Europe will be happening here, I think, but it's just going to, in America, it's just going to be very, very quick. There's going to be more and more of this Russophobia. And then as that Russophobia continues, they continue to lie about it. And I'll play a clip here of the joke that it was this week when the social media giants came in there and said the numbers were staggeringly low, insignificant about whether Russia was, really advertised and all this other stuff. And then nothing was done to them. They didn't break any social media laws and things like that. So ultimately, it was just a bullshit show. And what did the politicians do? They just sat there and whined like, you didn't do enough. You didn't do enough. What's that? 0.0001% that Russia had anything at all to do? Yeah, that was too much. That was too much. They hacked our democracy and blah, 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 blah. The same things. Nancy Pelosi, fucking retard, fucking idiot retard, just continues to open that pie hole and just blather out the fucking Democrat line, which they were robbed. Hillary was robbed. Trump's, a Putin, lackey carrying water. Tucker Carlson's carrying water for Putin. Just that. I mean, this is exactly how they are going to fucking take this. They're going to take this shit down. They're going to pay agitators like Charlottesville on both sides. They're going to bring this up to a fever pitch no matter what. And then they're going to start taking, you're going to go to RT.com on your phone or the app won't work, or you go to Sputnik or something like that. And Sputnik's already being blocked by, in workplaces, Sputnik is being blocked. Let's just say that. Because I clicked on a thing and then boom, firewalls have built-in blocking to other countries, as you would well imagine, because you're running a business inside that country. You should have that blocked off unless you're doing commerce with that, and then in which case these firewalls can be opened up for that particular for that particular country. But it is closed off in general if you're just doing business in the United States of America. So largely, you see what's happening with the Catalonian thing, the leaders turning themselves in so that they can, hopefully speak their minds about what happened here. But you also have to say, what is causing this? Who is causing this? Is this a grassroots thing? We know that it's already, and I'm using this as an example of things, how anger and violence and things break countries up, much the way the same thing happened in Russia with the Marxist, Leninist type people, the Trotskys, people that changed their names to protect themselves and protect the cause, which ultimately came from Rome, everything that happened in World War I and World War II, the Vatican was well aware of what was going on. And where were they? What did they do? What did they say? I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure they just kept on doing the same thing. We need peace and we need love. And when climate change comes, we will need you to believe whatever Pope is saying up here about it, because it's a danger to us all, when it's just another fucking boogeyman as they divide and conquer, as they do all these different things that they do. They need all these distractions. They need all these things so that they can get the whole, they can just get the whole thing underway. But it's going to, the cherry on top is going to be an economic implosion of some sort. On what level, we don't even know yet, but it's going to happen. Okay? I don't give a fuck what you're hearing on your, state-approved media here. But the economy is shit. The real state of the economy, the real health of the economy is, very short time. Very short time. And sooner or later, doing podcasts and doing talking about things of importance like this, you got to get a little better. So every now and then I see like little glimmers of hope and sparkles of life when it comes to my ability to kind of convey the importance to kind of convey information. I've never really truly kind of like linked into one particular topic. I mean, health, you could say, would be one of the things that really kind of woke me up about, hey, why do we not have, and how come they're allowing this toxin in the sodas and the foods that has been linked to all kinds of like 99 things that you don't want to happen in a day, let alone for a month or a year. Symptoms of disease or dis-ease created by chemicals that the Food and Drug Administration approved after a panel of people, of scientists. Ooh, that should grab you. Ooh, the scientist said, hey, listen, this stuff is bad. It really fucked up these rats that we were testing on. Sorry, rats. But it really fucked them up, okay? And we think that if this gets approved, that this is going to adversely affect people's health, much the way that it did to these rats. And there was Donald Rumsfeld, the operative, okay? This is a guy who up front was the defense guy, and he was involved. He's been involved. He's a right minion. He's a minion of the right. He's an operative, okay? Just like there are so many minions of the left as operatives. The podestas, if you will. Okay, we're hearing so many things about them and what they do in their spare time and what they do to people and apparently what they do to children. And there's just something wrong with this system. There's an evil, dark side that people absolutely, they get a taste of it through this disease known as government, this control of the mind or the mind control, and people will harm kids. They will molest them. They will do horrific things to one another. I heard George Carlin the other day, one of his best. I think it's when I first started noticing, like, man, this guy's getting old, bro. You could just tell, and I think he might have been on beta blockers or something because he made a joke about it. But he said, we're the only species that kills each other for profit. It's called Life is Worth Losing. That was one of his. It's the one where he said, you have owners. They own you. But it was so much more. It was so much more powerful. If you watch the whole thing, you'll see how he strategically with the audience moves into these different areas of the world, different topics in the world that he moves into, and then strategically kind of opens up people's minds with it, where they're sitting there and they're clapping like, oh, he's talking about me. I'm kind of a dick. I'm a douchebag. I kill people. You know, you're in marketing or advertising, you're killing people. Because these products, these food products are deadly. They're deadly products. The flu shots are deadly chemicals. They're made with animals and animal cells and all these other things. They mix. They sit there and they mix all of these different so-called vaccines that are going to save you or protect you. And they put them on animal cells. They mix human and animals, and that should never, ever be done. The xenotransplantation should never, ever be done, and it is the cornerstone of all the disease. It is the cornerstone of all disease that happens when you integrate something from an animal, a protein of something that is not human, that is not inherent to the human body or the body of man, the body of a woman. Because human is some form of man, not man. Some form of man. And in some of their documentation, you know, our incredible system, this incredible design says man and other animals. So as soon as you read that, and that was pointed out by Alfred Dash, a guy that I interviewed a number of years ago, who has a blog, he said, look at this, man and other animals. So as soon as they classify you as an animal, then they can fuck you up. Plus, it's in the U.S. Code. Clint and Patrick have talked about it in great detail. So they're just creating the world that they want to live in and the world that you will not live in, that you will not live comfortably in. It will be run by robots in factories. And that's what we're dealing with here. That's the type of thing that we're dealing with here, because we're thumb suckers, okay? That's what we're dealing with here. We're a bunch of thumb suckers that believe that because we wouldn't hurt someone, that somebody else would. And if they are, then they're extremist, or they're this, or they're that. Every bad guy that's ever been was sold to us through that fucking television set or a textbook, okay? You got to wipe this shit clean. Okay, none of this shit is real. It's all a fucking science fiction movie that they're using to design their world. It has nothing to do with reality. But when it's implemented, your whole system of what you think, how you enjoy the world and life, okay, is going to be a Minority Report style thing. You know, like Payday says, at some point you won't be born unless you have a job to do. You won't be born unless you have a job to do. And that's the extreme future, but maybe not. Maybe not. We have a crisis of people that do not realize what we are in. They don't realize how it's run. They believe the fiction that we're being told. We believe the fiction that we're being told, and when we believe the fiction, then that becomes a reality. Because when you tell a lie enough times, it starts to be, we're only, and George, another thing George said, we're only out of the woods for, so long, and we are animals. We are animals, but then it's those people at the top that decide who the animals are and who, like Animal Farm, right? From like the book Animal Farm by Orwell, right? Or was that? what is it? It was Orwell, or that might have been one of the other guys, the Brave New World guys, the Huxleys. Oh, the Huxleys. Oh, yes. So they tell you, they give you all the information that you need. George Orwell, or Eric Blair, basically said, this is where we're going. The doublespeak. Freedom is slavery. Okay? That couldn't have been more apparent under the Obama administration, where he was just the destroyer. And everybody else kind of just moves into place. But because he's a black guy, oh God, we're really making headway here. This is so exciting here at DeKalb University. Where we have all our gender studies, and there are 17 different genders now. So it doesn't click. This education system teaches us lies. It has an agenda. The government is involved in school. No government should ever be involved in education. No government should ever be involved in education. And the very fact that they are, is not because they want to make sure that the world is empowered and emboldened by these people that get produced here. Okay, this is not. It's the opposite of that. It is 180 degrees the opposite of creating someone who's going to get out there and who's going to make this fucking world run, who's going to get on. Well, they just need people that are going to get on that fucking hamster, wheel and just run and run, survive, get you in debt and make you run. And if you're not running and you're sitting still and you're thinking about going to work the next day, or you're not thinking about, that's why we have 5-day work weeks, 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 2 days off. We could do this a completely different way. People would have 3 days. People would have 3 days to decompress. You could go to the Bahamas. If you're on the East Coast, you can go to Bahamas for a couple days. 3 days, maybe even 4. Just throw a paid time off day on there. And then you take 1 day, but you get 4 days. You can do whatever you want to do. It'd be great for your, whatever you want to do. You want to drink some wine, you want to drink a beer or something within reason. You want to smoke some ganja, whatever, get all mellow and shit, and start thinking of creative new ways to do things. That would be great, but that's why we have the 5-day work week. It's about really destroying you, crushing your hopes and dreams. While everything goes up, where the banks determine how much a house is. Gee, I paid $500,000 for this house, but now it's only worth, because of what the bankers did and the regulation and the deconstruction of Glass-Steagall, where the Glass-Steagall was there so that the bankers and certain aspects of the economy could not collude together, which I'm sure they still did, but at a smaller level. And so once Billy Boy Clinton there said, hey, zoink, you got the whole beginning of the 2008, right? Intermix, the terror attack that introduces the complete and total war on terror, and then the bankers fund the creation of ultimately the creation of all of these different groups, the ISIS, al-Nusra, all these different, they're in, all these crazy jihadis are in the Philippines. They're over, apparently they're over in Africa where we just found out that there's like 1,000 troops, but there's probably like 2 or even 3 times that amount. And the politicians don't know anything about it. But that's not an outrage. That's not an outrage. But no information that really, really shows that Russia had anything to do. That still gets talked about like it's the biggest outrage that ever could be. Why? Because we're going into a world war, and it's the third one, which they said when they planned out the first one and the second one, and then ultimately the third one, which would involve Islam. Surprise. Okay. It's just a frightening thing. Not shaky, frightening stuff, but I mean just things that make you go, things that make you go, So I wanted to play something for you here. I want to play something for you. Recently added. Oh, this friggin' thing is really killing me, man. I gotta turn this off. Oh, I can't turn that off. I gotta turn off this malware bytes because it's really crushing my whole thing here. Hold on. Upgrade now. Nope. I'm looking forward. Turn off. Settings. My account. No, I can't do it. Well, let me do it. That's a little insidious where you can't really. Okay, real-time protection on, off. Thank you. Now it's going to run more because it doesn't bottleneck. It doesn't bottleneck through the chimpy. All right, let's see. News. I just put this in here. All right, well, take a listen to this. I'm going to see if I can jump this ahead a little bit.
Have turned themselves in to Belgian police. They are accused of sedition over their roles in the region's attempt to separate from Spain. A Belgian judge will now have 24 hours to decide what to do with the detained officials.
This morning, the 5 persons that have been sought by the Spanish authorities presented themselves at the Federal Police of Brussels. This afternoon, the persons involved will be heard by the investigative judge in this building. The investigative judge has to decide within 24 hours, which means that a decision has to be made no later than 9/17 tomorrow.
Well, the former Catalan leaders also face charges of fraud and rebellion. There are several possible scenarios that may now play out in Belgium. A judge there may reject the extradition request from Madrid, but many analysts believe that's unlikely. If the authorities do agree to hand the officials over, Puigdemont may file an appeal or ask for asylum, meaning it might last some time. Well, they are not the only ex-regional politicians facing punishment over their roles in Catalonia's independence push. On Thursday of this week, 8 other Catalan government ministers were jailed too. They've been charged with sedition, rebellion, and embezzlement. We spoke to a Spanish history professor about that. He told us that rebellion charges can't be applied to the Catalan leaders.
Legally, there's been an entire debate about whether the charges of rebellion can actually be applied, because the Spanish judge has arrested them on those charges, and rebellion, actually, according to the Spanish judicial legislation, it actually implies the use of violence, and it's been very, very clear that there's no violence has been involved in the entire Catalan pro-independence movement, whether in the referendum or afterwards. So in the protest has been very, very non-violent, peaceful. So in that respect, one could argue actually that the charge of rebellion, at least, is a very difficult charge to understand and to apply.
Well, the crisis in Spain has left the country divided as protests break out over Catalonia's future.
I'm not allowed to say, even in my neighborhood, that I want to be Spanish, that I feel Spanish.
I know people who prefer Catalonia and they hate Spain, but I don't know where comes this hate.
We've lost friends. We've lost part of our families because people don't want to talk anymore. They just want to listen to what politicians are saying, and this is dividing the Catalan society.
Me.
So, what are we hearing here? We're hearing a situation, a problem, Catalonia not being part of Spain at one time, and then being brought into it, being pulled into it where people did not want that to happen. But then you got people who do. At the very top, the puppet master kind of does his or her work. You know what I'm saying? So basically what we get here is we get a wound that is being reopened, and now you hear people saying the members of their family they've been conquered because their families have been destroyed or broken apart or whatever. And that's the goal. And it was probably years.
My heart is broken. My family is from the country south, and I was born here. So I'm half here, half there. Actually, politicians earn so much money, but they do their work badly.
Madrid is acting as it was in the medieval ages. It's a shame.
The Spanish government is executing a policy of repression. They have support in the rest of Spain, but not in Catalonia.
Well, we took the chance to ask Dr. Polo Casarini, who's a political expert at Loughborough University, what's next for Catalonia?
Now there are some fresh air with the implementation of Article 155 and the new election, which will be held in December, 21st of December. But this is not the end of the Catalan pro-independence movement at all. At least the two main forces that support the independence of Catalonia will run. So this is not the end of the pro-independence movements at all. We'll see what happens next.
Moving on, an investigation into allegations of Russian meddling in the US election last year brought about two significant developments this week. Donald Trump's former campaign chief was indicted on Monday, together with two other former aides. And a number of tech giants took a grilling in Congress as they presented evidence on the alleged interference.
They found portals into our society.
Russia has harnessed the tremendous and, quite frankly, to me, frightening power of social media.
Their goal is to divide us and discredit our democracy.
They are using our own social networks, our friendships, our families, and our biases and viewpoints.
These fucking traitors, you can't even call them traitors. I mean, because this really doesn't even belong, the United States doesn't even belong to us. So who are they traitor to? What they're doing is they're traitors to their families is what they're doing. They're doing things right now. They're doing things right now. Saying these things, words have an effect. And what we're going to see here is a little bit at a time, the puzzle piece is being built with every fucking word that comes out of these scumbags' fucking mouths about this whole bullshit Russia interference in the election. And they don't even care, even when they're told point blank by these social media legal teams. They just don't fucking give a shit. They just keep on saying it. These people should be imprisoned. They should be imprisoned. Every fucking word that they say, that because mostly because their opponent lost, and because they're not smart enough. They're not smart enough to understand that they're being manipulated too. But they got enough money and they get haircuts and free food on the American people, so they don't give a fuck, and they want that to continue. So you got to stop Russia, right?
Against us.
That is spread like wildfire.
We determined that the number of accounts we could link to Russia and that were tweeting election-related content was comparatively small.
Aggregate, these ads and posts were a very small fraction of the overall content on Facebook. But any amount is too much.
Circus music.
These videos mostly had low view counts.
You failed. Lack of resources, a lack of commitment, and a lack of genuine effort.
And that just won't do.
We could have done more, but I think we are doing more today and have done more since the election.
No, we need to do more.
Mr. Stretch. Same is true.
Okay.
Look, I'm not necessarily a big fan of these big tech companies, but watching the hearing today, I had the sense of some people trying to give reasonable answers to some very unreasonable questions, that they were making it clear that they do have standards having to do with editorial policy when, for example, we're talking about incitement to violence or something that could be connected to terrorism, but it's not their job, and it isn't their job to try to exercise political censorship over content that somebody in the U.S. government.
Terrorism is a tool of the state, and it was just used in that man's comment.
Or the Congress doesn't like, and that seems to be what these senators are faulting these companies for.
On to another development. 3 people from the Trump campaign have been indicted as part of the investigation. Among the accused is Paul Manafort. He led Trump's election campaign from June to August 2016. He's a D.C. veteran, lobbyist, and a lawyer. He's also known for being the advisor to Ronald Reagan and George Bush Sr. Manafort was indicted together with his associate Richard Gates. Well, both Manafort and Gates have pleaded not guilty to the charges against them. Among the 12 counts, they're accused of conspiracy against the United States, money laundering, and not registering as an agent of a foreign principal. However, none of the charges against them in this Trump-Russia investigation mention either Trump or Russia directly. They're accused of acting as agents of the former government of Ukraine. The indictments describe in detail the lobbying done by Manafort and Gates in favor of the former Ukrainian leadership. But the document fails to get all the facts straight. At some point, it refers to Yulia Tymoshenko as the country's former president, despite the fact she never held that position. Virginia Senator Richard Black told us the Trump-Russia investigation has so far failed to find any sign of collusion.
During recent weeks, the whole Russian narrative has fallen apart. Keep in mind, these are sort of ordinary federal offenses. You're talking about some lobbying irregularities, money laundering, tax evasion, failure to follow or failure to file foreign bank accounts. And these go back to 2006, long before his involvement briefly with the Trump campaign. He only worked for President Trump for 3 months. It was a very short gig for him, but there is nothing, and this is the key thing. There is not one scintilla of evidence linking President Trump to any attempt to influence the elections by using Russian assistance.
RT's Caleb Maupin has more now on how multiple investigations are still looking for evidence of Russian meddling almost a year on from the election.
So at this point, we've got 5 different government investigations into alleged Russian meddling in the 2016 presidential elections. We've got the Senate Judiciary Committee, the Senate Intelligence Committee, the House Intelligence Committee, the House Open Government and Reform Committee, and let's not forget the Special Counsel investigation headed by the U.S. Department of Justice. That's a lot of time and a lot of taxpayer money. So what have they come up with so far? Well, the first claim came from the U.S. intelligence community that said they were almost certain that Russia's President Vladimir Putin had personally ordered the hacking of the Democratic National Committee.
The intelligence community assessment concluded first that President Putin directed an influence campaign to erode the faith and confidence of the American people in our presidential election process.
A year on, and no solid proof has ever been released in order to back up the claim. No one has ever seriously examined the assessment, and the Russia did it mantra is almost all that can be heard on Capitol Hill. But what we have actually learned from the investigation is that the FBI had to rely on a private company.
Were you given access to do the forensics on those servers?
We were not. We were a highly respected private company, eventually got access and shared with us what they saw there.
The FBI never actually had access to the Democratic Party's server and had to rely on the investigation done by a private security firm, CrowdStrike, that was hired by the Democratic Party. On to the next claim. Supposedly, Russia was pouring resources into a social media campaign designed to manipulate the minds of Americans and convince them to vote for Donald Trump. Well, thanks to the U.S. Congress, we now have the scale and actual amount of this alleged campaign.
Now we have this allegation that somehow there were huge numbers of Russian hackers trying to post things on Facebook, showing for the absolute rubbish it is. They spent $4,700. It wasn't even $5,000, as you said earlier. $4,700 on buying Google ad space. Well, compare that to the $12 million that Hillary Clinton spent on creating the fake Trump dossier. It's peanuts. It's completely irrelevant. And it had no say on the election whatsoever.
And then there's the investigations into the Trump team's ties to Russia. We've got a former Trump aide who's pleading guilty to making false statements to the FBI when they interviewed him about an overseas professor who was said to have substantial links to Russian government officials. A spy story, no less. But the main scalp of the investigation is Paul Manafort, a Trump team official with ties to Ukraine. So we're approaching the 1-year anniversary of the election. And what have we got so far in the way of meddling evidence? Well, not much. Nancy Pelosi now says that she wants a new committee.
We still need an outside, fully independent investigation to expose Russia's meddling in our election and the involvement of Trump officials.
If that's all that they've found in all this time, perhaps the lack of committees is not the problem. Caleb Maupin, RT, New York.
Well, staying in New York, on Tuesday, a truck rammed into pedestrians and cyclists on a bike lane in the city, killing 8 and injuring a dozen more. It's the deadliest terror attack in New York since 9/11. The suspect, who's now been identified as 29-year-old Sayfullo Saipov, has been charged with terrorism. ISIL said it was behind the atrocity.
A lot of females screaming. Well, I mean, it's Halloween, but it was an eerie scream.
The smell was, very strong of gunshots.
Saipov had been planning this for a number of weeks. He did this in the name of ISIS.
Well, the attacker drove the rented truck along the busy Hudson River cycle path. Now, the vehicle was rammed into cyclists and runners for well over a kilometre before smashing into a school bus carrying children. The attacker jumped out of the vehicle with what appeared to be weapons. Police did later say he had several knives, a paintball gun and a pellet gun. Well, he was shot and arrested. The suspect, Sayfullo Saipov, arrived in the US in 2010. He did so legally during the Diversity Visa Lottery. That's a program Trump is now vowing to close following the incident on Halloween.
Thanks, Chuck Schumer.
Saipov got married in Ohio, which is where he worked as a truck driver, but he most recently lived in Paterson, New Jersey. We went there and gathered reaction from his former neighbors.
Like, he was always really quiet.
You know, it's quiet, and I'm pretty shocked about the whole situation that happened.
I always thought, like, it was just from, like, different areas.
It really hits home, you know. You don't think it's going to happen here, but unfortunately it did.
You never think it's going to happen here. You never think.
He's quiet. He respects everybody in the mosque. You know what I mean? He doesn't ask questions to the imam. People don't know him that much because he doesn't talk to nobody, so they don't know him.
All right, so nobody knew the guy, even in his mosque, even in their little community there, their worshiping community. Never said anything about it to anyone. Nobody knew who he was. But it makes sense. Hey, listen, this is what you're going to do, okay? This is what you're going to do. You're going to go into this mosque over here, see? And you're just going to let people see. You're never going to say nothing, okay? You're never going to say nothing to nobody, okay? And then you'll be all quiet, and they'll be like, I saw him, but he never pulled a knife on me or nothing. I thought I saw a spitball straw, but it was just him having a smoothie. So I didn't think nothing of it, see? I didn't think nothing of it. It's a quiet community here. You never think it's going to happen here, but then it does, and then you're like, oh, my God, what happened here? And then, like, you know, it's the war on terror. What can you say? What can you do? You just got to let the authorities do what the authorities are going to do, you know? So, all right. So we're coming to the close here on Cold Reality Radio. It's so cold out. Yeah, I know it's cold out because it's a cold world. That's why it's a cold reality. So, start a fire and wear some layers because it's going to get colder. It's going to get colder. So stay tuned for Rock the Boat there with our good friend Ron Stevens. And stay tuned for all the incredible programming here today on UCY. Behind the Woodshed with Hal, Red Pill Sunday School with Clint, and just all the incredible programming here on UCY.tv. Shali Lama signing out. Have a great rest of your weekend here on Sunday, November 5th. Sunday, November 5th. Year's almost over, folks.
There is only one holistic system of systems. I will MK Ultra ya, put the MK scope on ya. If the MK hits you, it's guaranteed to open ya. The 57mm Mark 110, 120 rounds a minute trying to stop them. Don't put that on your wish list, that's retarded babble. Protesters make the hit list soon as they start to rabble. They are nothing but fishes in the barrel. It doesn't have to be Christmas for a carol. Some decorate with ornamental decorum. Some perform Shakana on Hanukkah and Purim. That's where my job come in. I am a blessing to the mercenary. For the corporation selling weapons to them. Any potential competitor step into them. I'm authorized to knock them out and stick a GPS into them. They want to sell uranium to Iran. That's enriched, that's a bitch. Now we got